Greetings, folks. This is Scott, the Game Audio Institute. And we are beginning our journey into dealing with Constellation 2.0, and we're still going to be building it in Unity, despite the drama of the last few days. Overall, there's a lot of reasons basically because of that, but essentially, it is the tool that I know the best. It is the tool that I can prototype with the fastest, and yeah, so it's possible I might maybe try and look at Unreal and MetaSounds at another day or something like that for another project. And I guess I should probably preface this by saying, if you don't know anything about the Constellation project, go and check out some of the earliest videos from the big long Unreal branch. The first few there kind of bring you up to speed on the basic concept. This one's going to be a 16 by 16 by 16 cube. And I have actually been thinking about ways to be able to generate more interesting behavior, basically, from it. Not yet quite sure how to handle it, but but we'll be investigating all that sort of stuff and potentially running into dead ends and trying different options. So we're going to have two sort of branches of procedure, how we're going to proceed. The first branch is going to be audio, essentially. Taking around, make a grid, make it play through the grid, essentially. Just a single layer, basically. And we might duplicate it a bunch of times so that we can see it functioning in other ways and stuff like that. Because there's certain kinds of things that I want to be able to do with it, and in terms of cross modulation stuff and things like that. So that's going to be one thing. And the second thing, and I'm actually kind of probably working on the second thing first, actually. It's a bit weird, but there you go. The second thing is going to be the VR interaction and trying to work out the mechanics of how that's going to work. Sometimes it'll be in VR, sometimes it may be mocked up outside of VR, but eventually the goal is to control this entirely in VR, possibly also with just hand tracking. We shall see what happens with that. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a new scene. And as far as what I'm looking for, just a basic built-in scene. Doesn't have to be fancy. I'm just looking at it for some prototyping work. I usually tend to go here and just take the skybox straight out and go for a solid color, probably black. And then we'll have unlit objects. Makes it easier on the renderer and stuff like that. Anyway, so what we want to do is we want to generate a script we want to write a script, I should say, that's going to do the creation of our basic triggers and stuff. Might want to make a folder here actually called scripts. Wouldn't that be good? And this one will be called Constellation Gen for generator. All right, so I'm going to look at the Muse code that Unity kind of created there. And it's called the grid spawner. And we're going to take some parts of this. And what it does is it takes a game object prefab. It creates rows of 16. It takes columns of 16, and then it has a spacing. Now, one thing's for sure, we are going to have a global spacing happening all the way through here. And so that'll be almost like a dynamic value that will constantly be able to be changed. So, and ideally, the idea is that I'm going to actually have it changed by means of the like either VR controls or a menu or something like that. That will be a VR menu that you can just immediately like grab a thing and immediately change the size. Ideally, if you had like hand gestures and you're recognizing hand tracking, then you could do something like this in order to be able to expand it. And that's one of my goals here with the Constellation, is to be able to make it so that you can scale it anywhere as large as you want it to be, basically. So yeah, 16 rows, 16 columns, spacing. Right, now we want to do here, and we have spawn grid. You can see this, it's not too terribly difficult. Essentially what it's doing is it's running through a loop, and it creates the things that you need to have happen. So you're going to create row parents, and then you're going to create individual columns, and the columns are basically our positions, essentially. So essentially, I would probably call this position rather than object. Now, what I want to do is I want to spawn 8 grids, basically. Or, sorry, 16 grids, I guess. Now, I could obviously just duplicate this object 16 times and, get the exact thing. But what we want to do is keep our spacing kind of the same. So what we're looking for probably is a third thing. So we're going to basically take this, put that in the Constellation generator, tell it to do its thing. I'm going to call this spawn cube. And the cool thing is we're going to do this, and then we're going to just drag the thing and save it as our prefab. So this will be very cool. So we're going to go like ZYX effectively is what it's going to be. That's exactly what we're going to do. So we got to go here. We're going to take all this. Going to put that in there too. And like that. Public game object prefab rows, 16 column space, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Start, we can call it, and it'll be called spawn cube, right? Spawn cube triggers. Cube triggers. So, okay, so I want to say spawn cube triggers. That's very nice. I like that autocomplete. That's very helpful. Okay, spacing 1.00, because that's very important. And then our rows, columns are going to be there. And then let's see if there's anything else here that's relevant to our situation before we start going through it and hitting it. Okay, so technically that should work and not leave any errors in our console. Go double check and make sure we don't have any errors in our console. It doesn't look like it. So what we're going to do is now we're going to go into here. And the whole thing will be that we go Z first. So we're going to go for int Z equals 0. Z is less than rows or columns or whatever. It doesn't really matter, I guess. At least that's my feeling. Maybe I will find out I am wrong. And then we will find out. Okay, so there's less than rows. And then Z++. Blart. Got this, got that. Do this. So I will say game object. I'll say it's a cube parent. All right, and then equals new game object. Oh no, it has to be unique, I guess, huh? String row name. Oh, okay, I see. Wait, I'm not doing this correctly at all, am I? Nope, I need to put that over here in the Z. There we go. That's what we needed to do. A cube parent equals new game object. And then we need to get a string. So the string will be, it's pretty obvious. We're only going to make one of these. No, actually it's going to be the layer. That's right. Because we haven't done these as layers. So we want to go this string layer name. There we go. Yes. String layer name equals layer. Oh, whatever, there it is. And then plus Z. And then row transform parent. There is no parent for the cube parent. It's fine. Oh, I guess no. I guess it wouldn't be it'd be layer parent. That's right. Not because we're doing layers. We're not doing the cube. The cube is the master. The master blaster. Okay, so let's call this layer parent equals new game object. And it'll be layer name. Okay. I guess if it's just doing a bunch of columns and then it does another spawn of another row, well, then you do another layer. But why wouldn't you have? Feels to me like the spacing is the issue. It feels to me like we would want to advance the layer position by the spacing, essentially. And to keep the spacing continuously there between the objects. All right, let's see how we can do that. Layer position equals new vector 3. And then what do we want to do? I think it's basically just Z. We want to just change the Z. And what's the multiplier? Y times spacing. So it would be probably 0, 0, and then Z times spacing. Yeah, there's definitely going to have to be a very distinct difference there. Let's see what happens. I have a feeling this probably won't work quite like we would want it to, but we shall see what happens. Okay, so we need to get this a cube. So we're just going to call this. Yeah, we'll just put it here for now. All right, there we go. Cube. Boom. Well, I don't think that's what we're looking for. It basically created one layer. Created layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then it didn't separate it around because we're not actually going by Z. Right. Okay. So we need to go back to our script. And we need to change that spacing so that it is Y spacing and not 0. Yeah, we need to just basically say this isn't here. And this goes here. So we want it, vertically standing up, basically. So, and then this will be 0. And we need much more spacing. Yep, we definitely need much more spacing because each one of those things is one object. The other thing I guess I should mention on that cube is we do not need any physics. We're not getting any physics at all anymore. We're not using any physics because we don't need it, which is very helpful because that means we don't have to worry about triggers and rigid bodies and all that other kind of stuff, which is what we had before. And I can potentially create a material for this later on if we need to. We're just trying to see if it even works. I'm going to choose our spacing at 2. As our cubes are at one size. So here we go. Oh, do we get it? Did we get like some kind of... That's not good. Yep, that's what you call a Stack Overflow error. Okay, I think we're probably done for the day. All right, so we have gotten it to work. The error was actually caused by a really nasty situation because what happened was our square object, somehow or another, that I put in here, I thought I didn't put this. Anyway, it's a really bad idea to put a script that has the spawning of a cube of objects of itself on an object that is there as well. So that was what was happening, was basically I had this script spawning that, which then this also had that script on it. So it was basically trying to spawn 4,096 copies of itself, of 4,096 cubes. So that would have been a lot of cubes. I don't even know how many millions that would be, but that would be a lot of millions. That'd be one of those, Unity dots things potentially. All right. So basically, it's pretty much fairly similar to what we just had before the break. The thing was essentially the deal was we've got ourselves our vector 3 position, but this time rather than having the x and then the y and then the 0, I just chose to put the spacing here. And that was important because this is actually where the actual cube gets drawn. So that's super important, basically. So now we have, what is this? Row. Right, so then basically we have this, it has the row, and this has the layer. So the layer, the parent transform of the layer is basically the transform of the object that's running the whole thing, which I'm calling matrix for now. And it works. It works fine. And it actually responds pretty well overall inside the game. Keep in mind, I don't know if you, but anyway, you're keeping track of this sort of stuff. This actually doesn't move. It stays exactly where it is in the game at all times. So all I need to know is just the positions of objects, and if the position is at the same exact position. That's all. So that is a good sign, and it came out pretty quickly once I figured out that I was creating a really problematic recursive loop. Anyway, so what we're going to do is hit this, and bam, we have ourselves a cube of 16 by 16 by 16. And we can go all around it, and it's not too bad. It's pretty responsive overall. And then everything's going to have its own name and everything like that. Now, I do want to see triggers in the middle of it, and I also do know, based on some information I got from somebody, that I could make them transparent, but that tends to make a little bit more work for the video card. So I don't want to do that because I'm trying to think about, making this happen with very little computation, ideally, if it's going to be on an Oculus Quest. I'll probably have a Quest 3 before too long, I would hope, but we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, yeah, so the deal is that we're going to be doing this, and I think what I'm going to do next is go and find myself a shader that I have, probably through the asset store. I think I've already gotten one from before that was like a wireframe shader. So I'm just going to get a wireframe shader for this because I don't want to use the colliders because the colliders add more computational stuff. Having just plain old meshes in here with no actual density or whatever like that, or solidity or physics or anything like that is much more efficient. And we've got ourselves a little bit of an interesting little fun grid material. It's kind of interesting. You can actually choose more grids if you want to, which is kind of cool. I like that. But, this is an individual cell and not the entire grid. So it's possible this might come in handy in some other ways, but we'll see. But all I really wanted to do was make the basically a simple box and make it just transparent. So let's see how we get this. And I'm going to probably pull that and make that the prefab. Give it a try. And there we go. Shades of 1970. So there we are. There is our gigando grid of objects that we need. And we can do all kinds of stuff. We could probably create copies of this shader, and each of those shaders could be different colors. I just wanted to have a really simple kind of thing. And if I want to, I've only got the same thing, so I could just go to the grid material and change aspects of the grid material if I need to. Like, for example, the line size, I can make it a little thicker. And that might be nice. We shall see. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. I think that's a good stopping point. We got ourselves a grid, and we'll be doing more work. So we'll see you in the next one. Hope this helps you get your game design on. All right. Take care. Bye.